Welcome to the One-on-One Podcast with your host, Juan Ayala.
Welcome back to another episode of the One-on-One Podcast. I'm your host, as always. Make sure to follow the show on social media at the One-on-One Podcast on most social media platforms, tjojp.com. Make sure to get a copy of the Occultist Monday, professionally printed, the Homunculus edition, 88 pages of Homunculus goodness. And we're going to be talking about homunculi today. And follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/one-on-one podcast, streaming every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Come watch me get my ass kicked on video games and jump in the chat, talk, all that. And that's pretty much it. Make sure to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/the-one-on-one podcast for exclusive episodes only found on there, over 250 episodes only found on there, ad-free, all that good stuff. And welcoming us again, the mask, the myth, the legend, Joreeezy from Cave Podcast. What's up, bro?
What's going on, man? One more time, baby.
One more time. Can you plug your stuff before we get started?
Yeah, make sure you guys follow us at The Cave on all platforms at the K4V3, because we have some projects that I'm excited about that you might care about. One is occult anime, obviously breaking down the occult symbolisms in anime. We got Dragon Ball, we got Ghost in the Shell, and we got Pokemon lined up. So we got that, and we got this other one I'm excited about called Cinematic Symbolisms, where we do the same thing, but with movies, because there's a ton of movies, so kind of encompass that. And bro, you got to come on and break down some Nicolas Cage movies, because I just saw Dream Scenario.
Oh, yeah. That one's
dog, good. That's crazy, bro. I know we talked about Dreams, the last one. That was a mind. But yeah, follow me at The Cave. You can find me there. And check out the website, cave.com, k4v3.com.
Links down in the description. And I don't know about you, bro, but I think last time I tried a different approach. I told people that were fake and gay that didn't share the show. The last episode you and I did pretty well, performed pretty well. And I don't know if it's because people stopped being fake and gay and actually shared the episode or what it was, but it was a success on my end. And so, yeah, if you're not fake and gay, make sure to share the show. Share this episode. We're going to be talking about mostly centered around Akira, but I found a lot of stuff that relates it to Homunculus, relates it to MK Ultra, the Montauk Project, all this craziness. I did put together a slideshow. It's not complete because when it comes to this sort of thing, you can just go crazy connecting all the dots. And if you put together a presentation, I've been there, where you start putting together a presentation and it just never ends because you just find more and more and more. And sometimes I feel like you just got to send her. You know, you just got to send it
for sure, how
it is, and the homunculus will win in the end, right? Will come through. So we'll be talking about Akira. It is going to be full of spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie that's over 30 years old at this point, what is it? It was in 88 that it came out?
1988, yeah.
And we're in 2024, so that's 36 years. So if you haven't seen the movie after 36 years, jump on it. The last time I had seen this movie, I had actually found this movie. Quick little story. I found it. I think it was at a pawn store or something like that, or a thrift shop, and I found it on VHS.
There you go.
I thought it looked interesting, and I bought it. And I remember seeing this movie. I want to say, dude, I was probably 11 or 12 years old, something like that. I was a young kid. And rewatching it in 2024, and shout out to that from the YouTube chat. He's the only guy who showed up for the watch party. So it was just me and him in the Discord. And if you want to participate, I get it. When you make people jump through hoops, you got to connect your Patreon to the Discord and jump in it's a lot for some people, so they're not going to do it. So that's probably why people didn't show up. But for the next one, I'll probably do it differently. But either way, if you're a patron, make sure to connect your Discord to your Patreon, because there's a members only chat, and I was planning on doing watch parties on there. I might switch it up to make it easier for people to access. But shout out to him. He stuck out the whole way through.
Free movie, dog. You know, why not?
Movie.
Why not jump through the hoops?
And also, we watched the original English dub from 1988 that changes from the 2001 dub, which I heard was inferior to the 1988. So shout out to him for sticking it throughout the whole time. And it was great because he's not that deep into the occult. So he was asking me a lot of questions, and it was making me like connect dots as I was watching the movie. Right. And I hadn't seen this movie in so long. I didn't remember anything, to be honest. Like I remember the one scene that stuck with me as a kid that really messed me up when his intestines spill out. I remember seeing that as a kid and go, oh, like what?
Yeah, and he was tripping, right? And it wasn't really spilling out.
It was a hallucination. Yeah, so that part always stuck with me as a kid. But everything else, like I remember bits and pieces, but a lot of it, you know, you never pay attention as a kid. You're just watching it for the visuals. And this seems to be one of those movies that's like set set everything after that. It had the biggest budget of its time. I believe it was $8 million for an anime of its time. And it's beautiful. Like for a 1988 movie, an anime, it's gorgeous. Like the colors and the illustrations and everything is just beautiful. So it's a manga, right? That they turn it into an anime, and there was talks here and there to turn it into a live action, which would be sick. And at one point they were even talking about a DiCaprio being in it. I think in 2017 they stopped it to produce Thor Ragnarok or something like that. I read on the wiki page.
I think Leonardo DiCaprio had a production company that bought the rights for it, but they were trying to whitewash the cast. I think they had,
of course,
Leonardo DiCaprio as Kaneda, obviously, and then I think they were going to cast Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Tetsuo and Kristen Stewart as Kai.
Really?
But then they dropped it, and then Taikeshi Waititi ended up picking it up, and he wanted to base it more off the manga than the movie, and he wanted to make the cast more culturally diverse.
Sure.
But he got hired for Thor Ragnarok, and so that they dropped it after that. So it's kind of cursed, quote unquote. But bro, like I said, like after watching it, like now, so ahead of its time, bro. The animation is so dope. And it's not even just the animation and the illustration, even the story of it, bro. Like they're depicting 2019, and you could say kind of accurately.
Yeah, it seems like
they had underground bases, right? That's where they kept Akira. Yeah, and the diversity and the almost war for control, you know.
Yes, more war for your mind type of thing. Like, and I think that's what's going on, especially nowadays. A lot of psychological warfare with DARPA, LifeLog, you know, MySpace, Facebook, like all these people. This is all government projects. I mean, let's be honest. Like, this is all government entities collecting data, mining your data, and they're making, in my opinion, virtual homunculi of each and every single person listening now who has a digital footprint. One of my biggest regrets before starting this was not wearing a mask like you, bro. Like I should have worn a mask and should have concealed my identity, but I didn't think I was going to stick it around this long, to be honest. And I didn't think it was going to grow to where it's grown now. So yeah, definitely some predictive programming on that end of the movie, you know, since it was written in 1988. And I'll be honest, dude, like government conspiracies don't do it for me. And by government conspiracies, I'm talking about like any conspiracy where HARP or even maybe MK Ultra, like I don't know.
Is that like shallow level for you, like white belt kind of?
Not that it's white belt, but I like more of the occult, esoteric, magic sort of
like
thing.
John D type shit.
Yeah, like that. Opening up interdimensional portals, using people to open up those, like how this whole movie is kind of relates to something I've been tossing around, the concept of what I've dubbed nuclear homunculi or nuclear homunculus, where in my opinion, if you can use a homunculus and all these grimoires to become invisible, become impervious to pain, live longer, and any other crazy magical thing, why wouldn't you be able to use it as some sort of nuclear weapon of sorts, right? And you have all these stories in the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, and all these stories of ancient nuclear war. I mean, that was a concept. Thor, look at Thor, had the freaking hammer with the lightning and everything else. So that's something I've been tossing around. This movie kind of confirmed it for me, of like, hey, maybe there's people, and relating it to Twin Peaks, Bob, you know, he's born from like this nuclear explosion. We have the concept of nuclear weapons opening up rifts in space and time and letting things through. 1947, Roswell, after the Trinity site. At the Trinity site that had the jumbo where allegedly they try to create a radioactive homunculus, right? This nuclear homunculi, according to some, right? They never told us what it was for, but it was a sort of vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm watching this movie, remembering everything and really writing down notes, I'm like, wow, it came, right? There's the civil unrest aspect of it, which has something to do. Maybe it's cultivating that energy of, right? If you look into The Psychology of Crowd by Gustave Le Bon, he always talked about, like, this is a guy who is talking about the psychology of a crowd, how a crowd, because it becomes its own living organism, its own entity. And a crowd, there's guidelines a crowd has to meet to fall into that category, including a nation, including a town, including a small gathering of people. Like, there's different guidelines you follow that will classify something as a crowd. Now, he's talking to you about all this academic stuff up front in this book, The Psychology of Crowd. I think that's the name of it. Anyways, Gustave Le Bon, I've done an episode on it. And there's one aspect that he talks about where he can't really put his finger on it. He calls it the contagion. And it's something that weaves itself in and out of the crowd and brings out the worst in people. So in this movie, you have this civil unrest of the people coming out, right? And then there's an interesting aspect where, and me and you know that we're wondering how the people knew of Akira, but come to find out that this is based 31 years after the first destruction that came forth from Akira after he lost control of his powers. So these animes do that where they show you like sort of the aftermath, and as you're going, they kind of paint the picture, the background information of what happened prior, and then towards the end you get the flashbacks of, wow, they were all together in that program. That's almost like Stranger Things, right? That's the whole thing behind Stranger Things, of trying to bring forth these ESP or telepathic powers in these children, who a lot of them were abandoned. They were orphans, and you come to find out that that's how that was their whole connection. So as I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. And it blew my mind at all the dots I connected after the fact, and even going through the visual symbolism, which we'll get into. I guess I put together a slideshow here with some of the symbolism, but super alchemical. But maybe start us off with the background of the creator, because I know you have some connections there, because I didn't really look into him all that much. I saw he was very decorated, though, as far as a lot of awards and different things that he had.
Yeah, so his initial project, I think it was called Domu. So Katsuhiro Otomo is the creator of Akira, but he had a project prior to Akira called Domu, and it's also about psychics. So he's had this fascination with psychics, and I think Akira, the manga, is his magnum opus, because the manga ended in 1990, so that was 2 years after Akira. So essentially, he was working on the manga before Akira, while he was filming, we're not filming Akira, while he was directing and producing the film Akira, and after Akira as well. So, you know, when you're creating storylines, sometimes the crowd reception and their ideas kind of help you come up with more ideas to make the story more believable or more appealing. So with all that, I feel like the manga is his kind of masterpiece opposed to the film, because initially the film didn't even do that well when it came out in theaters. I thought, honestly, bro, when I watched it the first time, I didn't really get it. It's when you keep watching it and you're watching it over and over again, it makes sense, because it's essentially 3 stories in one, right? Like, you're kind of misled to believe that Tetsuo or Kaneda is Akira because it's titled Akira.
Yes.
But Akira is revealed later on. And honestly, I think they should call the movie Tetsuo instead of Akira. I feel like that would have been easier for people to interpret the movie and take in. But it's about a biker gang, one. It's about government experiment psychics, right? And it's about this almost kind of Christ figure in Akira, because you know, they're trying to usher in the second coming of his, and one of the factions that are excited for Akira to come back is a religious cult, right? So yeah, Domu, and then Akira, obviously everything's tied in with psychics. And what's cool about what we're going to get into is there's actually CIA paperwork and files that you could look up of these projects that are tied into all of this, you know, like the Montauk project. Like Stranger Things used to be called Montauk before they finalized it and made it Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And then Project Stargate with Ingo Swann and Pat Price, who are actual psychics. And there's, you know, remote viewing experiments that they've done. So it's going to get crazy. And I think we talked about the last time with Akira Toriyama, man. Like, how tapped in are these guys? You know?
Where are they getting their information, though, bro? Because we're talking about American projects. Do other governments? What's the Japanese version of MK Ultra? Or what's the Chinese version of MK Ultra? Or what's the, because it can't just be our government doing this sort of stuff. I think, I mean, look at the Nazis, bro. The Nazis for a long time were doing a lot of occult stuff. I mean, that's what it all was about. They were trying to find relics, the Holy Grail, the Spear of Destiny, all these crazy things they were trying to find. So that's why, to me, whenever I do focus on something, I always look at it from an occult perspective, because that's something that goes, in my opinion, transcends reality. The concept of obtaining power from an outside source for whatever reason, that's universal. Right, it's the Faustian bargain, it's the Faustian pact, it's this Faustian complex that man has always had to obtain knowledge or obtain power from an outside source other than what's on in the world, right? And when you're talking about these cultists that came out, they, in my opinion, Tetsuo becomes this messiah figure, right? Because they thought he was Akira, and he sort of, here, let me pull up my presentation here real quick, because I have something on that. Let me see if I can pull up. I have so many. I have only 16 slides, not that crazy.
This movie's deep, bro. And shout out to the others that have broke this movie down. But there's a lot you could say about this movie. Some are stretches, but like I said, you could link this back into other government projects with declassified paperwork, which is crazy, man.
So we have this guy, I don't know his name, but this guy where they were carrying him around, consume our unclean hearts. There's a lot of fire going around, and in my opinion, I related this to the Phoenix, right? The rebirth through fire, which if you look at nuclear weapons, they are kind of a rebirth through fire, in Japan especially. I mean, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when they dropped the bombs on them, and I believe that there's people living there now, right? There's people living.
I'm gonna cut you off real quick, bro. Do you think, be honest, nukes are fake and gay? That's a deep breath, bro.
Listen, dude. That's one that, is it psychological warfare that they're running on people? And if they were real, why doesn't everyone else just pop off, right? You have North Korea and Kim Jong-un talking about there's always that threat, that imminent danger, that threat. And it's almost like the Hegelian dialectic, where they present a problem, they present you the solution, and then it goes all over again, right? And it's for you to build trust. Do I believe that they're fake? No. Do I believe that that there is, and for 1 second, let's throw out nukes. Let's throw out atomic weapon. Let's throw that term out. Is there something that can cause massive destruction? Absolutely. I believe that there are things. And listen, dude, I always say this. Just because you don't understand it, and by you, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the person that doesn't believe that the world is round or gravity doesn't exist. There is something that weighs us down. Call it whatever. Call it the spaghetti monster. Call it whatever you want to call it. There's something. If you don't want to call it gravity, whatever. Who cares? But just because you don't understand a concept doesn't make it fake and gay. Okay, we have to solidify that, because a lot of people who are looking at this, let's be real, they don't understand it. I can't break down to you rocket science or atomic blah 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 or quantum fit, whatever. I can't break that down for you. But just because I don't understand it doesn't necessarily mean that it's fake and gay. Who understands God? What is God? Is God an atomic weapon? But you can't grasp your mind around God. So does that make him fake and gay? Is God fake and gay because you don't understand him? Maybe for some people, I don't understand God, so I'm a agnostic or whatever. There's a source, blah, blah, blah. Sure, that's a valid argument. But one of the things I always try to put forth is, listen, just because you don't get it doesn't mean that it's not real, because you haven't observed it. Seeing sometimes is believing, right? But hey, I think therefore I am cogito ergo sum, because Descartes was like, you can see it, but your senses might be tricking you, which is Tetsuo, right? Seeing all this crazy stuff that he was seeing, and then it wasn't there. So seeing is not always believing. And one of the interesting parts about what Tetsuo was seeing, and in the scene where he's in the room where the bears come out and all the toys and everything animate, it's interesting that the blood got them to go away.
Dog, you caught that too?
So
when he stepped on the glass, right?
The blood technology, bro. The blood technology, in my opinion, is very powerful. And I think that that's utilized throughout the 33rd parallel, which Hiroshima and Nagasaki both straddled the 33rd parallel. Harry S. Truman was the president. The S allegedly stood for Solomon. I believe he was the 33rd president, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. Harry S. Truman, president.
But I ask if it's fake and gay for this reason.
33rd president.
Nuclear bombs and atomic. That's crazy. S is for Solomon, apparently.
S allegedly is for Solomon. Let me see what his middle name is.
S alone is a sus letter. So
sus.
Sus.
Two S's,
it's contained into it, right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking, what if nuclear bombs aren't bombs? What if they're like an implosion of some kind of advanced, weapon, or what I mean, kind of like hydrogen, where it can be an efficient fuel of source, and you can use a lot of, you could do a lot with hydrogen, but at the same time, the inverse of that is you could blow it up. It's one of the most combustible chemicals or elements. But what's interesting is they obviously always say that the UFOs come out when nuclear warfare is at play, right? And so I had a conversation with this guy, and it's interesting because I don't think aliens will come and observe if we can make bigger bangs. I think they'll come and observe if we're opening up portals. Yeah. You know what I mean? Opening up windows in the back of their house, and they're like, oh, what the like, we need to go regulate, So I think it's more of an interdimensional implosion, almost like some CERN type that's going on, opposed to, a huge bomb that has radiation, you know what I mean? Because there also is that conversation of radiation.
Yeah.
Is it real or not? Because,
So real quick, did you know that Harry S. Truman actually had no middle name? His parents gave him the middle initial S to honor and please his grandfathers, Anderson Ship Truman and Solomon Young. Since the S did not stand for a name, Harry didn't use a period after it for most of his life. Interesting. He didn't use a period after, so you just put the S in between his two names. That's
the serpent always finds its way in the garden, bro.
Always, exactly. The serpent. You got it, bro. So the reason I believe that at least nuclear power is real. And one of the main driving factors behind my ideology when it comes to nuclear energy is the meeting of Fulcanelli and I forget the guy's name. I want to say Bergier in 1925 or something like that. Don't quote me on this, but Fulcanelli reveals the secrets. He tells him before the Manhattan Project, 5 years approximately, and this is when the OSS went and looked for Fulcanelli, the last greatest alchemist. So the government was looking for this immortal alchemist. They're like, how the hell does this guy have all the knowledge? Where did he get his information from? We got to find this guy to ask him. And he pretty much reveals the secret of alchemy. And he says the alchemists have always had the secrets of nuclear weapon, nuclear power, right? Because the secret to the Manhattan Project and the way that they were able to come up with nuclear energy was by placing highly purified materials in a geometric form, in a geometric pattern. Bro, that's Full Metal Alchemist right there. You know what I'm saying? Like you place everything out. It's about the manipulation of matter to bring forth a change. So when you split the atom, whatever the atom is, it brings forth this chain reaction, and that's how you get the big explosion, right? Allegedly. So that's why I believe that there is something, maybe there's something more to it, bro. Like how you're saying, maybe it is this occult aspect significance. And the reason I love doing the streams on Twitch and YouTube, on Sunday night, for example, somebody asked me about UFOs, and because I've seen a UFO. Shit. They asked me, they go, do you think UFOs are angels? And I was like, well, UFOs are fake and gay. Are angels fake and gay? Right? Like, what are we getting at? But it's like questions like that arise from the stream. So make sure to follow twitch.tv/one-on-one podcast, live every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. But these concepts, right? The UFO phenomenon has always been one of those. And lately, I don't know about you, but I feel like it's taken a turn for more of like, oh, the UFO movement is all a government psyop. It's all fake and gay. They want to take your attention away from this, that, and the other. And I'm like, maybe
it's definitely. See, that's the thing. I think it's a mix of both. So to wholeheartedly believe in one side, I think that's where you f yourself over. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, kind of, I feel like for me, the fake and gay, the art of the fake and gay is what I call it, is almost a way to just, it's like when people are selling you, you're just like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? You just automatically negate what they have to say. Where there is a power to that, but at the same time, you miss out on opportunities.
Yes,
because of that as well. So it's a double-edged sword. Exactly. But I was going to say, I also think that we get lost in these words. Like I said, I feel like language is a trap sometimes if you don't have enough words to convey what you're trying to say.
100%.
So back, like what you said, the alchemists back in the day, the witches back in the day, the healers back in the day, they were differentiated as alchemists, healers, and warlocks, you know what I mean, and doctors. But now they're all just scientists. Now it's all just science.
Yes.
Now there's all doctors. Even though if you look into it, like the people at CERN, it's like, you guys are kind of alchemists, you know what I mean? But
100%.
They're just scientists. So weapons of mass destruction, I feel like, is a deeper, you know what I mean, term than it's conveyed. Because, there's all that talk about we went to the Middle East for Stargate portals, which kind of gets into this too. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to kind of break apart the terms, because I feel like sometimes the terms limit the concepts that it's trying to represent. You know?
in Twin Peaks, which you should check out, bro, Bob is this entity, this interdimensional entity from the Black Lodge, right? And Bob is again born from this nuclear explosion. So one of the things that stood out to me when I was watching this is the gadget this is the nuclear bomb, allegedly, right? This is the what they used in the Trinity testing. And if you look at this picture here, right, it looks like an alchemical vessel, right? It looks very similar to when Tetsuo goes into the deep underground military base and finds Akira. And that's when you start to piece together, because I forgot the girl's name, the one that's with Kaneda, where Kai, where she starts to get very philosophical, and he tells her like, yo, calm down, where she's talking about how Akira is and everything, how Akira is the birds and all the animals and everything. And it seems like Akira, when you look at it from a Taoist perspective, Akira is the way, where it's like this sort of animism where everything has a spirit. And that's why Gundam, these big giant mech robots, it's a spiritual thing, bro. They literally blessed the head of the Gundam, the facility they closed down. They had shamans, bro, blessing the head of the Gundam, dude. Like,
damn.
before they opened it up. So you have this alchemical vessel here, and then you find out, wait a minute,
it looks like a womb too, a little bit, because Tetsuo turns into a huge ass baby at the end, and they say the nuclear, if you will, or Akira's return is the birth and rebirth cycle,
and that's part of alchemical lore, bro. So when I was watching this, I go, and in my opinion, Kai and Kaneda was almost like this messenger, very mercurial character, and the red-faced king, in my opinion, that becomes the Ubermensch when Tetsuo puts on that red cape.
Oh, you caught that.
He was red-pilled, bro. He put on the red cape.
Did you catch that before he put on the cape, everything he wore was blue?
No.
Yeah, bro. And, ignoring the blue hospital gown, he was wearing blue throughout the whole movie. Until he put on the red cape. And I think the red cape was the rebellion flag. So there's also the red pill. Not the political red pill, but the woke sense.
Well,
like
both,
the Matrix woke sense. You know what I mean?
You could use both. I mean, they were rebels, bro. What do rebels never want? They don't want government. Right, they want the government to step off. So it is.
But also, like in the beginning of the movie, they're like, "Oh, you don't want me to tell you what's in that drink?" Like, they're kind of woke in a sense where they're aware of chemicals in the food and all that. So
and the capsules, right? The pill, which is part of the pill gang. This gang they're a part of, this biker gang,
right?
Which I try to find an alchemical or a connection between like a biker gang. Maybe you have like the 1%ers, like the Hells Angels, which has been. I saw a picture on Reddit where the Hells Angels were apparently on the way to Colorado, where that whole thing is popping off with the alleged immigrants. I think they're Venezuelan immigrants, and you have the whole thing with Venezuela going off right now, which I didn't know anything about, but I found out in the Twitch streams, right? The chat be popping off.
And I heard that was they were just riding out for Labor Day, because like biker gangs, ride out for Labor Day.
Yeah. So,
but you see how information can get manipulated, and so Akira as well can get manipulated, because not only did the military kind of want to just shut it down, the scientists wanted to keep furthering their experiments because they had a breakthrough with Tetsuo.
That's the alchemist, bro. That's the Faustian counterpart of like, keep going. And then when he gave him the chemicals without the colonel guy knowing, he's like, what'd you do? Right? He's like, oh, his energy levels are over 9,000, right? It's like, whoa, I've never seen this aura before. So we're talking about auras and all this stuff. And in my opinion, when Tetsuo puts on the red cape, he becomes the Ubermensch. He becomes,
for sure,
the overman that was there, who was abusing his power, because with great power comes great responsibility, right? And this is why, in my opinion, Kaneda comes out as this mercurial guy, because he's trying to send the message of like, hey, bro, yeah, you have all this power, but don't go out of control with it, because you want to keep pushing the envelope. And if you really look at Mercury, right, it is red. So, and that's why Akira is wearing the red. His bike is red, and there's a replica of this bike, which is pretty dope, that they made. But if you look at it, right, so you have Tetsuo here being, well, in my opinion, Akira is the golden son, the alchemical child, the byproduct, right? And then we have like this sort of offshoot with Tetsuo, who's trying to become that. And in my opinion, he does become it at the end of the movie, because part of alchemy is and this is getting into Tracy Twyman territory where she talked about it a lot, where it's about the destruction of one reality and the rebirth of a new one. So, again, spoiler alert. Okay, we have I'm going to jump to the ending here really quickly.
That's also the symbolism of the bikes because it's cycles.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Because you think about it, if it's a futuristic setting, why wouldn't they just do hoverboards?
Neo Tokyo. So it's the okay, we got it. So at the end, we have the singularity, right? The singularity is one of those things where people talk about it. Right? We're in a Neo Tokyo, very futuristic, very technologically advanced. And a lot of people say that the singularity, it existed before the Big Bang, and eventually we're all traveling, maybe on a bike, right, on a motorcycle, to the singularity when, this is where you get into transhumanism and all that, where man will merge with the machine, which kind of was sort of at the end when he's on the throne. See, I have a picture of it.
Yeah, he was kind of connected to it, right? Like fused into it.
I can't find it, damn it. Yeah, so let's see here. Tetsuo throne.
I didn't even realize those vials that they kept Akira in looked like medication vials.
Yeah, bro. So at the end when he's fusing to that throne and you have the vials of Akira in the background where they had to take them apart because they wanted to understand. It's very alchemical, bro. So you have the scientist, right, going kind of sort of haywire and doing his own thing, rogue in the background. Always the alchemist is always tinkering with things to try and find that philosopher's stone. So at the very end, you have the singularity, which falls into the hands of Kaneda. And in the background, right, Akira had created an entire different reality. So he birthed forth this entire other universe after the destruction, everything got engulfed. The psychic kids, they sacrifice themselves, essentially. They're like, well, there's nowhere else to go. We have to become one with this thing that's happening. And so the monad is something that's really interesting in this, because monadology, Gottfried Leibniz, which this is because of this guy, we have the ones and zeros that power our computers.
It's the Matrix.
Leibniz was also looking for the Philosopher's Stone. Okay. He was involved. He was going around Europe collecting stories of people who had created the Philosopher's Stone. This was a guy who was highly steeped into the occult, and he had something called monadology, which essentially was about breaking reality down to a simple substance. Well, you know what else was a simple substance? God was also a simple substance. So if you think about the concept of a homunculus, some used it for the acquirement of godlike powers, while others used it for becoming a god. So at the end, you have this little singularity, this little monad, which a lot of people say that we're all rushing towards, and we're all going to be, or the singularity. Terrence McKenna talked about it. But the concept of the rebirth through fire, right? And using alchemy to destroy one reality and birth a new one. So you have Mithras coming forth from the rock. Well, according to some people's research, he had left the reality behind and was coming into the new one. Okay, so that's the rock symbolism there. And then I did a little breakdown of the names here because I thought it was interesting. We have Kaori. So at the end, his girlfriend comes out, right? And obviously he kills her after she gets absorbed into him when he becomes this giant homunculus baby, which we'll get into. But Kaori, it was interesting because it means smell or scent, right? So fabric or weave, so maybe the fabric of reality, weaving a new reality. She was sort of sacrificed, and if you look at her thing here, it kind of looks like the
I
queen.
thought it was different that she had that pattern on, right? Because why wouldn't she have red like everyone else?
Right. So we have this kind of weird pattern here.
That's interesting.
And then Kaneda actually means gold or metal, money or currency. The character Kane means gold or metal, money or currency. So we have Kaneda meaning gold or metal, right? Or currency. We're talking about the sea of reality, maybe. You know, we can kind of sort of twist it into that. And so he's wearing red, and he's always trying to talk him down from that ledge, always trying to, and he kind of stops him. And I was thinking to myself, I go, what the hell is Kaneda doing running towards the danger? You have this guy he's Superman. He's trying to take him down. I was like, this dude's not going to do anything. But he ends up, right? I think the ray was the thing that took his arm off. The huge thing. But if you look at this is from the manga. And we have the girl in the white. And we have Kaneda in the red. And I also looked at Tetsuo as the rebus, right? Which is the end product of the alchemical magnum opus, or the great work. The sun and the moon correspond to female halves, just as the red king and white queen. So we have this alchemical rebus entity thing. Now, mind you, he's not. I felt like his head was getting bigger and bigger, like as the movie went on, for whatever reason. We have in this.
It might have subtly done that, because I do believe that when you kind of become a vessel for something greater, you have to compensate by materializing more, which is why he was growing and needing to fuse with different organic material. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, did you look up that Akira, the kanji, is the sun and the moon together? So it goes back to why it's bicycles as well, and it's not cars. What? The kanji for Akira is sun and moon.
What's
combined. Kanji? It's the like Chinese or the Japanese symbolism of it. Akira kanji. So it goes back to the bicycles. So the name Akira can be written in many different kanji in Japanese, but one popular option, which is a combination of the characters sun and moon.
Whoa.
That goes into light coming from the sun, which, again, it goes into cycles. And I guess there's this huge zodiac sign symbolism behind it that I don't fully understand yet, but it goes into the homunculi, or the indigo children that we'll talk about, you know what I mean? Because one of them was bedridden, one of them was walking around, and one of them had a hovercraft and necessarily wasn't walking. So it's almost like they're waiting for cycles, but Tetsuo intercepted it, you know?
So these children, they age, but they stage children, okay? So
that's why I was like, good thing I'm breaking this down with you, bro. This is perfect.
So one of the first things that gets revealed with the light, if you will, right? They shine the light on him. And Akira also means there's so wisdom, truth, the sun, the moonlight, bright, intelligent. If all these are terms for the illuminated ones, Illuminati, right? The Enlightened, Los Alumbrados. So we have all this Akira symbol. So literally the name of this Japanese anime or manga, I haven't read the manga. The manga has different breakdowns, but you could interpret it as the Illuminati. I mean, in some the illuminated ones.
Also, when you talked about the singularity, the point of singularity, I saw this post about sonoluminescence. It reminds me of that too. Look it up. It's like a phenomena where a bubble, when it bursts, it flashes with light, right?
The energy, yeah.
And if you look into the last scene, it kind of collapses, and he says, "I am Tetsuo." You know, so it's almost like the word, if you want to get biblical about it.
Here goes. Every collapse an underwater bubble with a sound wave, the light is produced, and nobody knows why. Wow, that's wild, dude.
What's interesting too, bro, is what happens when the sperm goes into an egg and gets fertilized. There's also a flash of light, and they blame it on zinc, but who knows if, that's another science dumbing down a spiritual phenomenon.
Exactly. You know light beings. Maybe that's when the light being is infused into the womb, right? At the moment of conception. And maybe that's what brings forth the soul, or whatever it is that we know about, or we interpret as a soul. And that's why, dude, like thinking about are nuclear weapons fake and gay and all this other stuff?
You see, you know what I'm saying, bro?
there are other questions that are so much deeper that we don't understand, that flat earth is like the least on my totem pole of things to investigate as we're trying to navigate this reality. Let's first figure out why the hell
flat earth, one of those things that you talked about where it makes its way into a crowd, you know what I mean? I think it's like a concept parasite right now that's 100%. Infecting people.
Well,
weirdly enough,
you talked about information. I believe information is a living organism, is a living entity that is, right, informational life forms that are come forth from as soon as somebody thinks of it. Right, where do thoughts come from?
Akashic records type? You think it's more like a living information?
I think there are such things
type shit.
Egregore, Tulpa, thought form, XYZ.
Yeah.
I think that information, think about it, bro. Think about it. These cultists in the Akira movie they literally died because of an ideological thing that they believed in, a concept they believe in. They're like, oh, this is Akira, and it led to their deaths. There have been martyrs, what I call mimetic martyrs, throughout all of history, which are people we remember knowledge, information, because they died first set information because of their beliefs. Okay?
Yeah.
So information is 100%. Now, information can be manipulated. We know that. Is history fake and gay? How many years have been added to history and all this other stuff? What are we being told? What aren't we being told? The same sort of concept with this. Like we know the government is behind it, and now it's going to be unveiled. Apocalypse. Apocalypse means the unveiling. So we have this other post-apocalyptic Neo-Tokyo that goes through another rebirth. So there's the Phoenix, the rebirth through fire. And so we have 26, which is at the beginning of the movie. And he comes in early in the movie, and this is what allegedly unlocks the powers in Tetsuo when he comes into contact with this 26. Now, an interesting part about 26 is coming into contact with him unlocks this in Tetsuo, and that's how they're able to locate him and find out, like, oh, he's got similar powers to Akira. And it's interesting you mentioned, like, the entire movie you're thinking Akira is Kaneda when he's actually not. And that was one of the things that, that was like, yo, so what's Akira? And I'm like, Akira is something else, bro. Akira is a force. Akira is. And then you find out at the end of the movie, he actually watched the movie after we had watched. He's like, bro, I couldn't process it the first time around. I was like, I was so lost. I'm like, dude, trust me. I was taking notes and all that. And so if you think about it, and this is a Philip K. Dick, and I told you to check out Philip K. Dick.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about how the Gnostics, right, there's concepts of frozen information. So you have these informational parasites that once you come into contact with that certain piece of information, you will die, and that information used you as a parasite, and you will continue. So you're trying. Let's take the alchemists for a second. The alchemists were always trying to find the philosopher's stone. What if, when they were initiated, and this is part of initiation, I recently did an episode on the physics of ceremonial magic and subtle energy, where we talk about what rituals are for, the physics behind it. And part of ritual magic and subtle energy, the manipulation of it, is initiation. And the way I've come to understand initiation is when you're giving up your life force to sustain an entity on the other side. XYZ God, whatever, and miscellaneous gods, what I call the, and God we trust. What God? It's on our money. What God are we? Are we talking about the God of the Bible? Or are we talking about another miscellaneous God of these people that have created the foundations of our country, the monetary system and all that? I mean, the Knights Templar, which we have the modern day monetary system of credit and loans.
Right.
They were worshiping Baphomet. Well, what was Baphomet? Well, Baphomet was this entity on the other side. And what the interesting part about Baphomet is that one of the early renditions of Baphomet was meat. Now, the interesting part about meat, let me find it here. This is meat. And the interesting part about meat is that
that's wild.
she, they, them, whatever is holding up the pillars of reality. The chains
the stars right there, huh?
Of reality. Now, what happens if she pulls that down? Huh? What happens then? Will reality fall in on itself? Is that what an atomic weapon is? Pulling down the chains of reality to collapse reality in on itself? Right? I don't know. So,
yo, I'll interject and say this too, bro. To add to that, there also is symbolism with the biker gang rival that they were with, the clown gang, right? Now, if you want to get interdimensional, we're getting Nephilims in, right?
Oh, I didn't catch that, bro.
Who led Tetsuo to 26? One of the people from the clown gang. So you could say that they somewhat intervened for Tetsuo to intercept the powers, right?
Oh,
and there's one scene where the clown gang is wearing a red cross that looks like a Templar. So
bro, what?
there's that too, dog. And we talk about Nephilims, and Nephilims are giants. And I know there's this new conversation about Nephilims being interdimensional. I think that's why they're giants, because they're so massive as a light body that the vessel that they need almost, manifests as a tumor or a giant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, how you're saying, right? We're talking about his head growing,
that one too.
And the concept that this meat suit isn't enough sometimes for the power, and that's where the moon children or the indigo children also can come in. But damn, I didn't catch the Nephilim biker gang in Akira.
And it's interesting because in the manga, it doesn't reveal that they're all like drug addicts. So again, you know what I mean? If you look into the Nephilim clown thing, I think the basis of it is that they are the jester clowns that you see in the DMT realm, right?
The Clockwork Elves,
yeah, the DMT realms kind of attract you to the DMT realm. I mean, the DMT entities kind of attract you to the DMT realm when you have trauma, which again is why these orphans are chasing them in bikes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And they're in this constant like bickering with each other.
So here, really quick. So we have Meat here holding up the chains of reality, right? And she can bring them down. And I think that if you start messing with the wrong energies, you can collapse reality in on itself. You should check out Genuflect by Tracy Twyman. That's a book about a concept like that. That book changed my life. And so the 26. All right, and what I was saying about the informational life forms, Philip K. Dick talks about the Nag Hammadi library, and we have library for those that always make fun of me the way I say it. The
library.
Go yourself. How's that? Eat my ass. How's that? So the concept of this information that was locked away, that was frozen, suspended in space and time, right, for once upon a time. And the concept was that once the Gnostics came into contact with this information, that's why they were persecuted, and that's why they were wiped out, and they needed to be eradicated because they were poisoned essentially with information. If you can take that even into a modern day sense where people take their ideologies again to the grave.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Over my dead body. I believe something that's different from what you believe. Therefore, we're going to fight about it. And there's only room for one of us around these parts. And there's only going to be one homunculus that's going to be the victor in this. So he talked about that and how the Gnostics had come into contact. And the Gnostics were what? They were alchemists. So initiation could be part of that, of maybe when you're initiated, you are infected with this information. And once you're infected, you're initiated for life, and you need to complete the great work. Well, the great work for some, and in my opinion, in Akira, is about the purification and the alchemization of reality itself. I believe that what they're doing at CERN, bro, ties into all this. They're trying to quite literally, they talk about, well, we might make a black hole and it might collapse reality in on itself. Well, I'm pretty sure we all saw the Masonic movie Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse, and what happens there? They create a black hole, and also in the live action with Doc Ock, they also create a black hole that sucks everything in.
The power of the sun.
Yeah, the power of the sun, the black sun, perhaps. Right? We talk about. I think there's I saw something, and I don't know if it's real or not. So take this with a grain of salt, if you will. But there was this thing I saw where you can order Sunlight with an app.
What the fuck is that, dude?
So check this out, bro.
They kind of had that in the movie too. I mean, I think Tetsuo got hit with a direct energy weapon, right? Against Kaneda.
Well, if we look at the satellite when he goes out into outer space, which is fake and gay, I know. When he goes out into outer space and he attacks the directed energy weapon, yeah, it was a laser, bro.
Right. Pretty much.
That's wild, right?
That up too, yeah.
So I believe this is the one, Reflect Orbital, and I can't read this because is this a medium? Oh, actually, I can read this. Hold on, because I use this for research. So there is an app where you can order sunlight. It's not a good one. Where that's
so nuts, bro. I did see that on Twitter, and that's like
you order sunlight wherever you are, and the picture was the video I saw was a dude in the dark, and then he clicks on his app, and it shines a light on. So, is the sun faking gay? I mean, I know that was it the Japanese that made an artificial sun, Japanese artificial sun, or I think they might have made an artificial moon. Somebody made an artificial sun, and the Japanese I think made an artificial. Oh, right here. In a donut in Japan, shout out to Donut, they created a sun. Damn. They simulated a sun. Just want to remind everyone, make sure to check out the show on Patreon, patreon.com/the One-on-One Podcast. I constantly get emails. Oh, only one episode a week. Yeah, one episode a week for the public, but for as little as $5 a month, you can get up to 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 1 episode per day on the Patreon, as well as on the YouTube channel as a member for as little as $5. And there's also on the Patreon over 250 episodes only found on there. There's an extensive backlog of episodes. So check that out. For those interested, for those asking, make sure to follow the show on YouTube, One-on-One Podcast. Also, One-on-One Media. I am going live every Tuesday on there streaming. I also go live on twitch.tv/One-on-One Podcast. So make sure to check me out on there Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern. And make sure to get your copy of the Occultus Mundi Homunculus Owner's Manual, all that good stuff at tjojp.com. Can pick up your copies there or go over to the Ko-Fi. I'm on Facebook, Twitch, Kick, Rumble, all that good stuff. You know where to find it, and enjoy this episode. Okay.
Yeah, so Japan always tries. I don't know. It's hard not to build your culture
the
around
Holy Grail. Yeah,
around what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I mean, you got Godzilla based off of it, right? Which is a huge monster that tears things apart. Which again can be destruction before you get the rebirth of creation, right? And Tetsuo as well, and Akira. But it's interesting because in the movie Akira, the bomb or the explosion is black and white, and when Tetsuo gets caught by the scientists or the military, they're amazed by his energetic imprint, right? They're like, oh, this matches Akira. And it's
over
interesting
9,000
in the manga, because I kind of looked into the manga too. When Tetsuo takes Akira out from the underground base, he's cryogenically frozen, so his body's still intact. And they actually ruled together, Tetsuo and Akira, and I think they kind of exploit some of the religious cults that take the psychic drugs, because there's drugs that people take to kind of try to be psychic. So getting into MK Ultra, I think the manga kind of connects that a little bit more, But I think it's yin yang, you know what I mean? And again, going back to the bicycles, 2 wheels in order to make the whole thing work. I think Akira needed a Tetsuo in order to balance
100%.
Almost like a creation type of thing. You know what I mean? Like a God complex type thing where there's a Satan and there's a God, there's a bad, and there's a good.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's part of even Jack Parsons when he was trying to do the Babylon working ritual, where he believed he was saving humanity by balancing things out, by bringing forth the Scarlet Woman, Babylon into reality. So that is a concept of balancing out the karmic scales. You have the wheel of karma as well. in Taoist alchemy, they believe that they could escape samsara and this reincarnation cycle by creating the golden child, right? Birth forth from their solar plex or their crown chakra or whatever, and they could live out the rest of existence without having to reincarnate. So
in the manga too, I think Kaneda's girl is a medium, and that's why she's able to really talk to these espers or these kids.
She was also being possessed too.
Yeah, she's also being possessed, which goes to the symbolism of the Scarlet Witch, because, you know, Kaneda doesn't have powers. It's her that has powers, and she's wearing red too. You know what I mean? And in the end, the espers are like, "Oh, she helped us. You know, we could use her." So it's one of those things where, she, you know, in the lore, she birthed these homunculi, but the end, they're taking care of her type. You know what I mean? Or using her because of that,
And they were getting information out to Kaneda through her, so she was the medium. The entire movie, you know, these kids are possessing her, and in my opinion, 26 seems to be like one of the main ones, right? He's the one that talks a lot, and he's the first one that we see when the light, the illumination is brought forth on him. And 26 is interesting because we're talking about before space and time, the singularity, God birthed reality into existence. First there was light, right? And it was good. And 26 is the numerical value of the divine and most holy. Yahweh is 26. Yod-Heh, Vod-Heh. The Torah was given on Mount Sinai in the 26th generation of mankind. There were 10 generations from Adam to Noach, 10 generations from Noach to Abraham, and another 6 generations from Abraham to Moses. So again, you have that 26 number. It means oneness. Yahweh is one, but also carries ideas associated with the number 4. The most holy name has 4 letters: dominion, authority, fullness, giving of Torah, and Holy Spirit. So 2 times 13, 26. They always say 13 is an unlucky number, right? But it's probably the most lucky because 2 times 26 equals Yahweh, denoting that 26 is related to 13. 13 means covenant, love, and unity. Mankind is created in the image of Yahweh. 26. Not coincidentally, the Bible begins to describe the creation of mankind in the 26th verse on the Torah scroll in Hebrew. This is true even in English Bibles. Genesis 1:26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on earth." So one is the monad, oneness, right? This is why the Pythagoreans viewed God as a number, bro. Right?
That's
they were
crazy.
the first ones to be tapped into the matrix, and that's why they were like, God, 10 is the highest. The 1 and every single number has an occult significance to the Pythagoreans. I've done a breakdown of it it's on Patreon. Check it out. The Pythagorean number symbolism. I did it a long time ago, probably 4 years ago, and I break down all the numbers 1 through 10. And his name was Takashi, right? So in feudal Japan, the name Takashi was often given to people who were loyal, honorable, and determined. These attributes were highly valued, especially among samurai warriors. And I thought it was interesting. Takashi Murakami is a Japanese contemporary artist who has collaborated with the fashion brand Louis Vuitton. So
Kanye West too.
Has he really?
Who was hella inspired by Akira. If you look at
Kanye West?
Yes, bro. Kanye West wore all red, and that's because of Kaneda.
No.
Also, his career, bro, in his music video Stronger, it's literally Tetsuo's operation.
Bro, what?
Dog, not only that. So how did Kanye West get famous? How did he get powers? Car accident. Just like Tetsuo.
Trauma.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what happened? That he gained powers, right? But before that, he kind of was bullied, as he would say. He was marginalized, right? They wouldn't give him respect as a rapper, and then he became a rapper. They wouldn't give him respect as an artist or a designer. Then he made, Yeezys. And so and then now he's kind of the bad guy. So he really
he took the red pill, bro. He took
exactly.
Make America Alchemical again.
And I think that might be the ritual thing, that the initiating ritual that you were talking about too, taking the red pill, right? In the Matrix 2, you take the red pill in order to finalize and solidify that, all right, we're going down the rabbit hole. There's no turning back type. You know
I'm thinking about the meme of when it's like when Morpheus sees me take both pills at the same time. It's like the eyes.
No, honestly, that's what I would do, bro. I'd be like, I'm not too sure, so I'll just take both and see what happens.
Katsuya Otomo, the creator of Akira, this movie is my biggest creative inspiration. That was Kanye West in August 27th of 2018.
Yeah, man.
So, in subsequent tweets, Kanye insisted that the influence of Akira can be felt throughout his work. Every stage show I've ever worked on, every video, not just Stronger, every product, even when I was in the hospital, I would think, oh, this is like Akira.
Yeah, bro.
The video for Graduation single Stronger is a homage to the film. Dude, what?
Oh, yeah. Go on YouTube and type in Akira Kanye West. Oh, there you go. Yeah, but mute that. But look at that, bro.
Wow, dude, this is news to me. And
he's in the hospital. There's the bikes.
And I'm a big Kanye West fan.
Hell yeah. Same here, bro. And then there's him in the MRI scanners. Him breaking out of the hospital. It's literally Tetsuo.
Bruh, when he's in the...
Again.
And you think about the Stronger, right? Whatever makes you, what doesn't kill you just makes you stronger. Right. So it's about like what literally becoming the strongest being or whatever, the Overman, the Ubermensch. And this plays into, what did you say? Since Prince was on Apollonia?
Prince was on Apollonia. That's how long I've been on you. But bro, it's funny because I'm kind of hesitant about Gematria, and like I said, I do think there's some grounds to it because I think Enochian language is tied into that. But it's interesting, like I said, looking back into the bicycle symbolism or the motorbike symbolism, 13 is unlucky on its own, and what happened to Akira and what happened to Tetsuo sucked, bro. They were literally, you know what I mean, science experiments, but together they're God. So again, a bicycle, both of those in one vehicle,
so it's got a bike,
actually make you navigate. Yeah. So
it's got a bike. So let's see here, like Akira, this is not only the greatest animation achievement in history, the subject matter is so relevant to the current state of the world. Kanye's tweets are the perfect opportunity to revisit his previous since deleted Akira tweet. No way Spirited Away is better than Akira. No way. Sorry, I was just looking at a YouTube top 10 anime film. Spirited Away. We should do Spirited Away. Spirited Away is one of my favorite movies too, bro.
I bought that shit, so we can go and do that.
That's wild, dude. See, I didn't know this. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've seen Kanye wear the all red too, right?
Kanye
all red.
And it plays into, right, Kanye West being a clone. I mean, there's that whole concept of when he died, you know, when he's in the car accident, did he die in the car accident? And then I also came up with the concept of a lot of rappers always have their mouths sewn shut. Like 50 Cent had his mouth sewn shut for a while. I know Kanye West had his mouth sewn shut for a while, and that was like one of the things. I forgot which song was that he rapped while he had a
Through the Wire, and he rapped it in the hospital bed. So again, like him gaining powers in the hospital bed after the accident is very parallel to Tetsuo.
Damn, bro.
It's
dropping
crazy,
bombs.
Bro.
Dropping
Another
bombs.
crazy thing is the fact that he feels like people are trying to tell him he's schizophrenic, and people trying to tell him he needs meds, right? Is almost like where Tetsuo feels like he's getting stronger, and they need to keep taking these pills in order to kind of keep his power at bay and keep him from becoming this baby giant. So cancer information overload type of shit.
We have, right, the children were interdimensional, and I wanted to kind of link it into the color because they have an interesting color, skin
I thought
color.
So there's a debate whether or not indigo is purple or blue. Like,
well, those colors don't exist, bro. They're
from another dimension. Would you say
they're non-spectral colors? So your brain makes them up when you're looking at these different shades, because technically they don't exist on the color spectrum. So that, in my opinion, that's what plays a role into, I've called it an interdimensional color, where that's why they were interdimensional. So you have turquoise can be made from indigo, because then you have the indigo children, and indigo is one of those colors that is, again, non-spectral, but turquoise is not the same as indigo. Some say that the color indigo is not part of the visible light spectrum because it's difficult to distinguish from shades of blue and cyan in the light spectrum. And then we have indigo children, which is a sort of new age concept of children who have these supernatural abilities. Again, a messiah, which is part of the homunculus lore, bro, where they're trying to birth a new messiah. This moon child has the traits of the moon, or whatever it is, right? So they have extrasensory powers, and some of the concepts of the homunculus or the moon children is that sometimes you need a fully grown person because the fetus can't take this elemental coming down into it and entering it, because it destroys it. So this concept of, again, his head growing on some lamb, you know, like his head is super huge. Like what's in lamb's head? Well, according to some, lamb is a spaceship. Lamb is a vessel that you enter through to visit other dimensions and other realities. And that's not me making that up. That's part of the lure, bro. That's Typhonian OTO. So
why I thought these guys were homunculi is because they always alluded to the fact that it's not their time yet. They'll be reborn at the right time, right? So going back to homunculus, the homunculus lore, you're essentially pulling souls into an inanimate object, right? But that soul probably had a due date to come into this dimension, but it was prematurely,
ejaculated
over here. Yeah, ejaculated. It depends where you're speaking from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, that's why I think the government did some in the movie or in the manga in order to create them and prematurely manifest them into this dimension. You know what I mean? And so that's why they kept saying, and they were down to sacrifice themselves because they're like, oh, we're close. You know what I mean? Our time is coming.
I'm about
to
come. I'm
coming. Oh, bro.
It all makes sense now when you start looking at it from like this perspective. Like, what in the world? Like, people are probably listening like, what the are these guys on?
Dog, you know what? Dragon Ball actually ties back into this because we mentioned the containment spell was one of the most powerful techniques or moves, right? And it doesn't matter what your power level is, and even Superman is susceptible to magic. I think it's I don't know, but containment spell period is a witchcraft or a magic concept, right? Even in Akira, they were able to contain him. You know what I mean? So they're able to contain God too. And I went over.
That's what the monad is, bro. Containing
the brazen
God.
head, right? The brazen head was essentially like ancient Chat GPT, where they were trying to kind of siphon a demon into there. So yeah, the containment spell or some kind of like way to package something into a small pill, if you will. Again, I mentioned earlier that I think doctors and scientists is a up term because it doesn't really encompass alchemists and witchcraft and all that. But if you look at the pharmaceutical company, first of all, those names are so crazy. You could call them spells like supercalifragilistic. You know what I mean? It's almost like some of these medication names, like, they're actual medication names. And it's interesting because I know you've seen like these chemical reactions where if you put a chemical into sulfur or something, it almost explodes into a snake. So some of these pills, like they're powdered form and they're little, but after they go through some kind of chemical reaction, something happens to yield these effects. So it's essentially magic, and it's essentially a containment spell that gets, released into you in order to conjure something. So again, I was having a conversation with my friend, like these manga and these anime artists, like before they get into drawing, I feel like they do hella research before, practicing drawing, because their connections to the occult and some religions are on point, bro.
Well,
so,
yeah, they're
crazy.
100%.
And I personally think that Leonardo da Vinci, if he was born in this time, would be an animator, dog. You know what I'm saying? What was cool about the artist, what's his name? Otomo? Mitsushiri Katsuhuri.
Kakarot. Who cares? Yeah, we know. We know. Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
Otomo. The thing about him is when he made his movie or his anime or manga Domo, the original one, he had it set in a huge apartment complex building. So he said he got really obsessed with drawing apartment complex buildings. So that's why in Akira you see a lot of like neo-industrial architecture. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like he was able to take the material world and then recreate it into 2D. You know what I mean? Which tells me that they almost have a concept and a deeper understanding to it, because it feels like one of those things where in order to really understand it, you need to be able to teach it or speak about it, right? Mm-hmm. So to be able to understand it, if you can draw it, I feel like that's a deeper understanding of it in a sense, you know. Now if you can put that in an animation or a movie or a manga or an anime, then you're able to kind of really tell a story with some deep undertones, you know what I mean?
You ever seen the look at the Akira pill right there, red and white? You ever seen these coffin apartments in Japan? You ever see about that?
No, I haven't. Oh
yeah, there's people living like this, bro, in Japan. They got these little these capsule homes, but they get charged like, I don't know, crazy amounts of money to live like this, bro. This is crazy, dude.
Yo,
it's wild, dude.
Spoiler alert.
It's reality. Yeah, reality. Right? The truth is stranger than fiction. Soon. So it reminds me also of Judge Dredd, the Dredd movie. That's an awesome movie too, where they take the drug to slow time down or whatever. Mm-hmm. Damn, bro.
See, when you have these parallel stories, they must be talking about the same. You know what I mean? Again, going back to Akira being this information deity, you know, that was kind of bleeding into Tetsuo because that was kind of overloading him. He was having almost these schizophrenic panic attacks of Akira saying, "I'm Akira." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that tapping into the reality is almost sometimes overwhelming for people, but you could say that those people are the visionaries because those are the revelations and the visions.
Those are the mimetic martyrs, bro. Those are the people that die for the information that is possessing them. And again, with great power comes great responsibility. And in my opinion, dude, I think that information, not from an occult perspective of like, oh, it's too dangerous to know that one thing. I think that the information that you got to be careful of today is like you walked into the wrong room at the wrong time, saw some powerful person doing some stuff that they shouldn't have been doing, and now you're a liability. So now you got to go down. That, I think that to me, that's the forbidden knowledge that you shouldn't have. And right, let's go back to the Garden of Eden. Since the very creation of time, it's all about it's been about information, bro. It's about what?
That's true. Yeah.
Listen, you can eat from all these trees. You see this tree here, you see this other tree here, but there's one tree. I'm gonna put it here, but don't eat from this one tree. The tree of what? Of knowledge of good and evil. And it's like, well, when you tell a kid not to do something, they're probably gonna want to. What does that red button do? And therefore, that's why we're here today, bro, because they ate from that tree that they weren't supposed to eat from. And now, right? So the project.
Wait, what color are apples? Red, right?
Red. There you go.
No.
Well,
they woke up.
In some religions, Sumerian, Mesopotamian, the tree of knowledge of good and evil is actually a date palm. So the date fruit was because they don't ever say that it was an apple. That's, you're being programmed right there, bro. It was a fruit.
Steve Jobs.
It was never an apple. That, you know, everyone always, and if you think of an apple, that gets the worm, the parasite, the Illuminati worms, right?
Oh wow.
And the concept in Baldur's Gate, you're controlled by this Illuminati worm entity that if you don't get it out of you, you're gonna implode in on yourself, right? So they put all this in games. But the project was a military experiment designed to bring about psychic abilities in humans. Those subjects who successfully displayed psychic abilities were given numbers. At least 41 subjects were known to have displayed such abilities. And this is what they're alluding to in the anime the entire time. This kind of bleeds into the Montauk Project, to MK Ultra type of thing, where they're experiments, or Project Stargate, real things that happen in real history. And at some point during these experiments, the powers of Subject 28, Akira, grew out of control, leading to the destruction of Tokyo. And then when you look at 28, indicating that 28 is linked both to 4 and 7. As mentioned in Hebrew numbers 1 through 10, 4 and 7 are indeed connected and picture many of the same things. 14 plus 14 equals 28, linking Messiah to this number as well. So we have this Messiah figure, right? Akira, right? He was sent by Akira. He is Akira. Part of the Homunculus lore is, again, bringing forth this new Messiah, this artificial Messiah. A full lunar month can occur only in only 28 days. Jewish thought associates 28 with seasons as below. Thus, 28 has to do with holy time and the calendar. King Solomon enumerated 28 times seasons or purposes for everything under heaven. And that's King Solomon being, right, to some, Adam was the first Mason to some, right, according to the lore of some secret societies. But King Solomon was also a Mason. And I've been studying for my general contractor's license, and I'm seeing a lot of 33s, bro. Angles and spacing and all it for trusses and all. 33 this, 33 that. All these numbers are in masonry, which constructing of a new reality, deconstruction. So you break it down to the monad.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Bro.
Word magic. Let me ask you something, bro. Did you watch that or listen to the Joe Rogan and Terrence Howard podcast?
I only got through half of it.
I got through half of it. So what's interesting is, again, bubbles, right? Going back to sonoluminance. And it's interesting because this model that he had were a bunch of bubbles, and in between those bubbles were different angles or angels, right? And it's interesting because angels are technically supposed to be outside the bubble. And I don't know, I think what we're seeing is when the angels kind of go into the bubble, that's when it bursts, or that's when you kind of get an imbalance.
Entity,
yeah, or like Nephilim, when they with people in here, there's some kind of imbalance or Nephilim type where you get like this abomination, you know what I mean?
And the hydrogen, right? So hydrogen bomb, right? The high dragon, and dragons are always known in
hydrogen.
Are always known for bringing destruction.
Just kidding.
It was like the black sun, bro. Yeah.
Holy. Oh, I heard too that what's his face? Akira was a symbolism for Osiris, because Osiris was chopped up, right?
Oh.
And so kind of Osiris, Akira was chopped up too, and contained, again, a containment spell.
So, whoa. Yeah. So let me bring up here. So at the end, right, we have this scene, and I know you're going to be doing Ghost in the Shell. We have this from Ghost in the Shell. It's got this weird thing, and this always stood out to me. I'm like, wait, this looks really familiar, and it's almost, again, the monad is the source, is the one, and he emanates out reality. So essentially what we're experiencing now, according to the emanationists, who were the Platonists, the Neoplatonists, and the Gnostics, reality is an emanation of the source, of the one. So you have the upper eons and the lower eons, and the upper eons is this, what they described it as, the watery light. And this is where the source, or the one, or this androgynous being exists, or the source. And then the lower eons are the material reality that was, according to Gnostic lore, was created by Yaldabaoth, which is this Satan archetype, this devil archetype. He's the one that created reality, and therefore he rules over it. So when I saw this, when he's sitting on the throne, becoming one with, his arm is, he's like, oh, check it out, I made it. She's like, oh, you have an arm? Or I forgot who asked him. He's like, yeah, neat, huh? But he's like hurting him, and it's like molding and fusing with the chair he's on. And it just reminded me of, similar to how in Full Metal Alchemist, they have the gates, right, on the other side, and this emanation of the tree. And this is actually an upside down date palm tree. So we have the roots, right? The root of all evil, the root of XYZ. So the root, and therefore the tree grows, and we're here. Okay. So this is Robert Flood. So you get into Floodian philosophy and all that. And I've done a breakdown on the Patreon of that. You can check that out. Patreon.com/one-on-one podcast. But he becomes this giant blob entity thing, and then he kind of sort of becomes this little homunculus baby. But as he's sitting at this throne, around him is Akira. And Akira was dissected and put away because the scientists wanted to understand why his powers had gone out of control, because they obviously didn't know why. And so I related this to, if we're looking at it from an alchemical perspective, the Filius Philosophorum, the philosopher's child, made by true students of philosophy, is a symbol in alchemy. In some texts, it is equated with the philosopher's stone, but in others, it assumes its own symbolic meanings. Other terms for the Filius Philosophorum includes Filius Sapientia, the child of wisdom; Infus Noster, our child; Infus Solaris, sun child; Infans Lunaris, the moon child; and Infans Solaris Lunaris, the sun moon child. So this alchemical birth
baby.
of
It's always a kid or a child. It's interesting.
Well, I think that's the reason why they're targeted, bro.
Yeah. And it's funny because the kids, or the homunculi, the indigo children, they're essentially still childlike. And I think that was why they were attacking Tetsuo with teddy bears and like child toys. And I guess it was a symbolism for Tetsuo being an adult. He's already kind of gone through puberty. So he's kind of too old to yield the power, because you kind of have to have childlike faith again. You know what I mean? And so that's why he's kind of deformed and eventually turned into a big baby, because the power will kind of make you who you really are. And so since it went to Tetsuo, it made him what he is, which is a big baby.
And he drove him away with the blood, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, not the blood. So
yeah, they literally backed up when he cut his foot open. That was, I don't think they would have highlighted that if it wasn't for anything. So.
And so, yeah, that's alluding to blood magic of some sort, blood rituals. I think that it's a very powerful form of technology, in my opinion.
For sure.
We have here, right, there are several images that have been used to represent the Filius Philosophorum. Among these are the transformed hermaphroditic Hermes, the child of the Red King, and the White Queen. So again, I remember I assigned the White Queen to his girlfriend, and then he was the Red King because he put on the red cape and he absorbs her, right? So Kaneda doesn't get killed inside of him when he's absorbed by him, but his girl does. So again, that's that fusing. And after this happens, you see Akira, right? When everything starts to blow, Akira comes forth from that, and he is released. So again, I looked at Akira as this the rebus at the end of the day too. So I think that in this movie, a lot of people can assume the different positions of, right, this alchemical lore, but in the end, Akira, in my opinion, is about the alchemical destruction and rebirth of a reality, right, at the end of the day. So
yeah, I definitely think it has that, and it talks about cycles too, because it's constantly going on. So there's that too. Just to go back into the chopped up body parts, have you heard of Project Sunshine?
No.
So I guess it's a series of research studies that began in 1953, so before Akira, right, to ascertain the impact of radioactive fallout on the world's population. What they would do is they would take dead that had nuclear radiation, and they would just confiscate them from parents without their knowledge, because obviously parents won't allow that, right?
Whoa.
So they could study their flesh for this radioactive isotope. And dude, let me read this. Dr. Willard, the AEC commissioner in 1955, he said something that human samples are often the prime importance, and if anybody knows how to do a good job of body snatching, they will really be serving their country. So there's something about kids. There's something about radiation. Again, going back to nuclear fallout and all of that stuff. I honestly thought it had something to do with X-Men, like that made them mutants. But I think it fits more with Akira because they chopped up his body parts and they're still kind of studying him. And he's involved in some kind of nuclear fallout, right? If you will.
Think about it. Wow, this is messed up. So did Project Sunshine steal the corpses of children?
Yeah.
I believe it, and think about it. So we're talking about radioactively, right? These nuclear homunculi. So what if they were searching for that? Like, how does this alter? I have to censor that for YouTube because it will think of it as something else. So how does it alter? Can we bring? So this concept of revealing superpowers within people through trauma, right?
Yeah.
I've talked about that before, and how usually almost all superheroes almost have some traumatic upbringing, right? They come forth from some traumatic event that brings forth their power.
Right.
I know about this, bro. This is wild, but yeah, I believe that they could have definitely stolen some baby.
Yeah, I think too. Obviously the nuclear explosion in Hiroshima changed a lot of in comics and fiction, because I heard that prior to that it was all about gods and occult, right? And it wasn't until nuclear fallout that they started experimenting with like radioactive superpowers, and so they really banked on it. You know what I mean? But this Project Sunshine is real. So again, going back to tying in actual CIA experiments into Akira, yeah, there's that too. Godzilla was supposed to be a nuclear cloud. I think that was the initial adaptation of him.
Yeah, bro. So it's forever imprinted. This informational entity is forever imprinted in all of history. So so are nuclear weapons fake and gay? I don't know, dude. I don't know, bro. Is it all just to keep a hold and grasp? But like at the end of the day, I've always said this: what can I do to stop some nuclear attack of somewhere? If our government wants to hit the red button, what can I do as a citizen to stop them? Right? Like I have no power over that. So is it this egregoric parasitic entity that's in the back of our subconscious all the time? Because it always seems that we're always at the verge of nuclear war. Like, oh, this every single day, it's getting worse, it's getting worse, it's getting worse, and it just keeps going, it keeps going, keeps going. But does it ever get worse? Like, does it ever get worse?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you think that if Kim Jong-un was like, yeah, I'm gonna detonate, you don't think they would have taken his ass out already, bro? You think they would have taken him out already? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah. So I think it might be more like Stargate, where that again, I shot this theory out that I think the wars are more trying to gather mythological artifacts that can probably be used as weapons of mass destructions, but that might not be what they're intended for. But in the wrong hands, just like Tetsuo, they can be dangerous. You know what I mean? So I think that's why I raised the question: do you think nukes are fake and gay? Because I think it's more that, you know what I mean? I think it's more Osiris, like, you know what
weapons
I mean? Some kind
of
ancient
ass
artifacts.
Destruction, because they're fake and gay. Get it? Okay, so
there you go. That's why missiles look like dicks. And you seen Austin Powers 2?
I'm sure I have. Where he's
that looks like a huge dick.
Yeah.
Come in, dick.
Oh man, do you have anything else to add? I think we touched on a lot.
Let me see. So again, going back to Stranger Things, right? There's always a monster that comes out. There's the Montauk monster, but I'm talking about the Demigorgon.
Yeah.
So the Demigorgon looks up. So it looks like a flesh monster, kind of like Tetsuo, that came out from a portal. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So there's also that. And when I did the research on the Montauk project, I came across the Montauk chair. And I guess it's like a table chair that the psychics would sit on, almost like Cerebro from X-Men, and it would amplify their psychic abilities. And so what's interesting is if they had a sample, like they had hair from a previous psychic, they can kind of channel that person. So again, that's what the experiments were when they flashed back into Akira's life. You know, they had him in the table. I think they're alluding to the Montauk table or the Montauk chair, and I think that's why they had his body parts still, so that they can use them and try to channel his consciousness with the other test subjects. Because if you paid attention to the numbers, like Tetsuo was in number 887, so they've had a ton of experiments from 28, 26, and 25. Akira was supposed to be 28.
So, and also that's part of the homunculus lore and all these grimoires. These grimoires teach you what body parts of the homunculus mixed with what gives you X power. So that's part of, again, of this lore of breaking these homunculi down, breaking God down to a substance, which is what which was the philosophical understanding of monadology, where everything could be broken down, including God. And therefore, in my opinion, that's why that ties directly into homunculus, because you were trying to be a god by doing X, Y, Z with the body parts of it. And do we know that there's black markets for body parts? I was watching this thing on Netflix. I think it's called The Unexplained or something or other, Unsolved Mysteries or something like that. And I clicked on one that it was about, I think the name of it was The Head. And apparently there was this kid walking in the woods and they found this head. He found the head of this lady on the ground. And it was like, it was completely preserved because it had already been embalmed when they took it off. And they haven't been able to figure out whose head it is. And then in the documentary, there was this other lady that in the 50s, somebody broke into her crypt or whatever and took her head. So they were like, oh, it's that lady's head. It turns out it wasn't that lady's head. So that lady's head is still missing. And they're like, well, there was this satanic cult that was around the area that might have taken the head to do occult rituals. And I'm like, bro, there's people out here snatching heads and doing God knows what with these heads, bro.
Right.
And they still don't. They're like, at the end, like, if you have any information as to whose head this could be, call the number, blah, 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 1-800-HEAD or something like that. I mean, I'm making that part. But they were like, if you have any information on who this could be, like, tell us. They like even offered up a reward, I think it was, for anyone who could figure out whose head it was. But dude, that's one case of something that might be going on in the background that we don't know about. So we're talking about Project Sunshine, which I believe that, bro. I believe that they could have done that to study the effects of this. And that ties directly into what happened at the Trinity site, where they were allegedly trying to create this nuclear homunculus and this radioactive homunculus in this vessel, right? And the vessel exploded. So I'm thinking, what if they did put something in there and it exploded? Because it got like the Tetsuo swells up to this huge abomination at the end. And I love body horror, so like that to me really hit home when I was like, damn, this looks crazy, right? So he's swelling up, and then from there you had to really be educated in order to make that seem real. You know what I mean? So shout out to him for that one. I don't want to cuss in Japanese by saying it wrong. You know what I'm saying? Conjure up a dragon in my living room. Oh shoot, bro!
I will say this, dude. I think there's a darker, tragic story in this. I think, well, first of all, in the manga, Kaori is Tetsuo's sex slave. Like, he would just, they would have orgies because obviously they were like Akira.
Bro, why is super dark?
Akira and Tetsuo ruled together, and they were exploiting the cults that almost worshiped them. You know what I mean? So they were doing all types of shit.
Well, we should start reading the mangas, the animes. That's crazy.
Okay, one thing I'll say before we sign off is, yo, you anime fans, you guys are hilarious, bro. Like, we're already doing a deep dive on these occult anime movies, shows, and you're like, oh, watch the original dub. Oh, read the subtitles. Oh, read the manga. Like,
shut the fuck up.
You read the fucking manga. Goddamn, you do the breakdown.
It's
dog.
So that's what I'm saying though, bro. It's so deep. You can't get it all, bro. I mean, that's just the reality. You can't get the whole thing. So yeah, if we missed something, cool. Call us a retard in the chat and in the comments and let us know. Then argue with the other people, whatever it is. So
one last point I'll make, bro. Interesting callback. Remember I think the epiphany and the high point from the last episode we did was the Majin Buu and McDonald's and the Ivan meat, right?
Yeah.
Someone said in the comments, pink blob, right? And then the chicken nuggets being the pink meat. You know what I mean?
We're eating Majin Buu, bro.
Yeah, interesting. But I also think that plays into this too, because like you said, Tetsuo turned into a pink blob, right? Like a mass monster. And so I think there's something about like they said something about like the amoeba. The amoeba can't contain the human energy, but at the same time, the human energy can't contain the God energy.
Bro.
So that's why it's becoming a cancerous tumor right there.
Humong nuggets. That humunk meat, baby.
20 for 5.
Yeah, bro. I got you. I'm gonna brand that. I'm gonna get together with a brand deal that makes nuggets or something. I'm gonna bring to the world the humong nuggets, and it's gonna be mystery meat. You're not gonna know where the meat comes from. Don't ask any questions. Just know we got the special sauce for the nuggets.
Oh yeah, bro.
Oh dude,
yeah, man. I think that's about it. We've covered a lot, and we missed something. You dog.
That's right. And if you're not faking gay, share the show. If you're not faking gay, follow me on Twitch. Follow me on YouTube. All that good stuff live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Make sure to check out Cave, his stuff. Links will be down in the description. And let us know if you want to see any other anime. I know this one, again, was iconic. I grew up with this. Oh, yeah. I remember seeing this as a kid. I don't remember, but.
Oh, and if you watch this movie after watching this episode, it's going to hit different, bro. It's one of those things where every time you watch it over, it feels different, and you kind of catch something you missed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why when I was watching it, I was taking notes, and that was like, bro, you sure you got, I was like, he's like, you taking notes? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you sure you got, you don't got to watch it again? I was like, bro, I got it. All right. I'll make some connections. And like I said, there's plenty more. And I like the way that we related this to other stuff too. It's not just solely based on Akira, but yeah, guys, check it out. Let us know what you thought of this episode. If you enjoy it, might be doing more of these because there's so much to dig at. And this was fun, dude. Want to plug your stuff again for the people?
Yeah, man. Follow us at The Cave. Like I said, we got occult anime series and cinematic symbolisms coming out. So make sure you follow us on all platforms to stay updated. Check us out, cave.com. Occult anime shirts, too. Did you get your sweater, bro?
I did get my sweater. I was going to wear it for this, but I'd be too hot. But yeah, Cave, K4V3. Be sure to check them out. Yeah, I got my occult hoodie. It's in my closet. I was going to wear it, but I was gonna be sweating my ass off and they're good quality, bro. I like the quality. I had the original Cave hoodie that you had sent me. I really like the quality. It's good stuff. So guys, check them out. Support the channel. Support the show. All that good stuff. Let us know what you thought of this. And as always, everyone will catch you on the other side. Stay safe, my beautiful little homunculi and fomunculi. Later.